Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Kyle Murphy talking about board games. I don't have a tagline. Maybe I'll workshop one. But yeah, I've been having trouble finding the time to do these. But happy to come back with one that I've been wanting to do for a while. So this is my top 10 board game designers. Designers are something I try to pay attention to, especially because as an amateur board game designer, I like to kind of see what the design like ethos or ideas are of someone. And so, this is a list I've been meaning to do for a while. I Let me talk about my philosophy in coming to this. What I did was I went through my top 100, and I looked at the designers for each of those games. In order to be eligible for the list, they had to have at least two games, not necessarily in the top 100, but two games that I really, really like. Um, and Yeah, I then sorted them. I came up with a list of 27. I will give, it's not an honorable mention. I don't know where on the list she goes, but since I did my top 100, since then have played two games by Connie Vogelman, Wormspan and Apiary, both of which were fantastic. So she's somewhere in this list. I don't think she cracks the top 10 yet, but she's fantastic. I'm going to quickly run through my 27 through 11, um, and I'll just say the names. I have games associated with them too that I counted in this, but Casper Lapp, Andreas Seafarth, Henry Audubon, Clarence Simpson, Bernd Brunhofer, Alan Moon, Matthew Dunstan, Karl-Heinz Schmiel, Michael Kiesling, Eric B. Vogel, Glenn Drover, Ted Alspach, Paolo Mori, Donald X. Vaccarino, Carl Chudik, Phil Walker Harding, Antoine Bauza was number 11 and just missed out on the top 10. It's almost a little crazy that Antoine Bauza is not in the top 10, but there's a lot of good board game designers. So the idea here is for these top 10, I'm going to start going through them. I'll show you a couple of games of theirs, or maybe just one. Not just one. I don't remember who designed that game. Um, I'll talk about what I like about their games. So coming in at number 10, just beating out Antoine Bauza, is Stefan Feld, who would be much higher on my friend Bob's list, I do believe. Here I've got Castles of Burgundy, in my opinion, his best game by far. Coco Pelli, really great game too. Stefan Feld does this thing called point salad in all of his games that I played. I don't know if these other games that don't include point salad, but point salad, the idea is on your turn, you're going to do something. Everything you do gives you points. Different things give you different amounts of points, and the idea is to maximize your points by choosing the right things. Um, that can be, if you don't do it right, that can be kind of boring and just like, oh, we all did things and we all got points and somehow I won. But in lots of his games, I'll say the ones I listed that I quite enjoy: Castles of Burgundy, Trajan, Cocopelli, Bora Bora, La Isla, Rum and Pirates. He's very prolific. Um, and he manages to do things where he gives you that clever feeling that like, oh, I'm collecting a lot of pigs in this particular farm. It's giving me a ton of points. Um, Giving that feeling of like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I did this and it helped me out quite a bit, and now I'm doing really well. That's one of the reasons I really like Stefan Feld. Another thing that helps in point salad games, shared objectives in Castles of Burgundy that you're all kind of fighting over. Yeah, this great game. Also a good game. That's number 10, Stefan Feld. Number 9 is Mac Gertz. Ooh, so we've got here Navigator and one of my current favorite games. Oh, these are going to fall apart because this box is falling apart. Well loved games. One of my current favorite games is Concordia. Mac Gertz, I also really like Antique. Mac Gertz, well known for using the rondel mechanism that he does in Navigator. Concordia actually does not use a rondel, it uses a hand building mechanism instead. Um, and what do I like about Mac Gertz? So Antique has a lot of direct conflict. Not my Of his three games I've played, these are by far my two favorite. I still like Antique. These two do not have any direct conflict, and the player interaction is so incredibly high. Concordia, for being a purely economic game, I mean, both these are pretty much purely economic games, and you are worried so much about what the other players are doing, where they're going, how they're manipulating the market. Yeah, just I honestly inspirational. I would love to design a game with a closed economy, kind of like Concordia. I guess it's not closed, but where you care so much about what the other players are doing, and you are not taking actions directly to hurt them. Yeah, really cool. That is Mac Gertz. Also, if I say one of these designers and I haven't played one of their best games, let me know in the comments, please. Number 8 is a kind of a weird one. This is Paul Dennen, who has designed my current favorite game, Dune Imperium. Also a big fan of Clank. And I'm going to mention here Star Chamber, which Star Chamber is a defunct, you can no longer play it, online collectible card game that was amazing. Where you have all these different factions, some similarities to Magic the Gathering in how the factions work, and you have politics, and it's just this like sci-fi epic in a collectible card game that also has a board. Um, really wish that could be brought to tabletop in some way. And if I ever see Paul Dennen, I'm going to ask him if he has plans to do that because it's a great game. Anyway, Paul Dennen does great with deck building. His way of making sure that the cards that you don't play are just as important as the cards you do, and that decision is amazing. It really like makes your brain just like click in that you're always making these decisions. Um, Worker placement, really love worker placement. Deck building, really love deck building. And so the way that and then Clank also has other things. It's not worker placement. It's like a little race and like moving around a board. I love deck building. I love deck building mixed with other stuff. Paul Dennen does great. It's number 8. Paul Dennen. Number 7 is Wolfgang Warsch, which I might be saying that right, and I might not, but it's German. Here we have the Taverns of Tiefenthal, my favorite game from Wolfgang Warsch. He's well known for doing Quacks of Quedlinburg, which I also like. Also, that's pretty clever, fantastic. Played that recently. Shout out to they them Kyle who showed me that game. And here we have the Fuzzies. Uh, the disparity here I really love to show. I'm going to get much higher on the list to someone who has like a huge disparity with it, which I love. But like this is a really interesting dice drafting deck building game. This is a dexterity game, which is essentially Jenga but better with these little fuzzy things and these cards. Amazing. Um, he, he seems to just be having fun in his designs. Like even Taverns of Tiefenthal, which is his heaviest game that I played, there's a lot of just little fun things in it, and that's so nice. Um, he, you're always going to have a good time, even if you're not good at the game. Um, yeah, really like Wolfgang Warsch for that very reason. I'm excited I'm picking up. That's pretty clever at Origins, and excited to show it to Marianne because I think Marianne will really like it. Anyway, number 7, Wolfgang Warsch. Number 6 is Elizabeth Hargrave, who is very much a happening designer right now, I guess, because of the success of Wingspan. I did not bring Wingspan to show you here. I brought The Fox Experiment and Mariposas, which I actually like both of these a little bit better than Wingspan. Wingspan's also great. What to say about Elizabeth Hargrave? She designs games with themes where the themes matter, but it's like they don't feel the theme seems so well integrated that it's clear she was taking that into account from the very beginning. But sometimes Euro gamers can kind of get like be a little snooty about theme, and they're like, oh well, you know, who cares about the theme? It's the mechanisms that matter. She integrates the theme so well that it's clear that it has influenced the entire design, but it enhances the design. It doesn't take away from it. And I think a good theme should do that. And I think that that's not an original thought. Lots of people say that. And, you know, the Euro gamers who look down their noses at a theme other than trading in the Mediterranean are not very in vogue anymore, I guess. Yeah. Mariposas, you're playing as butterflies, doing the whole thing where you go up to the US and then back down to Mexico. You score points for satisfying various goals. Fox Experiment, you are breeding foxes. And yeah, they're very different games. She's not very heavy on the player interaction, but very heavy on the look. Oh, I'm doing something cool. Look what I did, and that's also a really good feeling. So yeah, uh, that's a kind of player interaction that doesn't happen at the board, but happens around the board. I really appreciate. That's number 6, Elizabeth Hargrave. Number 5 is Richard Garfield. Now, Richard Garfield designed Magic the Gathering. I'm not showing you Magic the Gathering right now because I'm not as big of a fan of it as I used to be. Here we got Keyforge, also Soulforge. These are both algorithmically generated games in that you have a deck that is completely unique. No one else has that deck. I really like both of these. Also designed King of Tokyo. King of Tokyo is fantastic. Um, I should note as well, so within my top 5, there are 3 designers that have over 200 designs attributed to them on Board Game Geek. One of them is Richard Garfield with 239 designs. That's insane. Um, Not as insane as one we'll get to. That everybody knows who I'm talking about. Yeah, he has the ability to create games with cards that have text on them that changes the rules of the game in some way, and it's really interesting. And you'll look at a card and you'll be like, oh, I could do that with this card, which is completely different than anything anybody else is doing. That's fantastic. Um, yeah, it's he's I need to play like Budding Kingdom and some of his other designs. He has a very interesting design mind that's kind of hard. It's so colored by Magic the Gathering at this point that it's a little hard to talk about like what his design like ethos is. I will say I'm not a big fan of Robo Rally, which I know is one of his first games. But you know, I mean, all of these designers, especially if you have over 200 credits, have designs that are just not good. I wouldn't actually not all of his designers. The ones that have over 200 credits certainly have designs that are not good. Um, yeah, that's number 5, Richard Garfield. Number 4, just making it on the list because I think I might have only played 2 games of his so far, but man, are they good! And one of them is Great Western Trail. This is Alexander Pfister. I've also played Isle of Skye, which was fantastic, and yeah, so shout out to Bob for showing me that game. Great Western Trail is just going up and up in my top 10. Like of this is one of those games that I just it's right in the medium heavy weight that I like. Uh, it has deck building, but it's not all deck building. It's very much about the kind of a rondel, like on the board where you're just going. Um, I, I'm excited. I'm buying Maracaibo at Origins. Yeah, I think the reason why he's so high up on the list, number 4, is because I'm just kind of enamored with the 2 of his games that I've played within the past year or so. Um, Great Western Trail is just it's a masterpiece. I will say someone on Board Game Geek pointed out to me that the S is capital here in the middle, and this is driving me crazy now. So it is not Great Western Trail. It is Great Western Trail. Oh gosh, it's so dusty too. What am I doing with my games? Look at that. That's number 4, Alexander Pfister. The top 3 here were kind of head and shoulders above the rest. So let's get into it. I will say there's some too, like Matthias Viggy, I think that's how you say his last name, who designed Arc Nova. That's his only game so far. I mean, he has the expansion too, but when he designs the second game, he'll be up here too. Or like Jacob Frixilius, Terraforming Mars. I haven't played any of his other games. I mean, I have, but like I played the spin-offs of Terraforming Mars, but he really only has Terraforming Mars as like a giant game, and then a couple spin-offs of it. Um, I mean, he has some other stuff. I just haven't played it. Regardless, top 3, amazing. Now this one's going to be the heaviest one to pick up these 2 games. So number 3 is Jamey Stegmaier. Here's Scythe with several expansions inside. Here's Tapestry with several expansions inside. Jamey Stegmaier, how to talk about his design. So he talks about his design all the time because he has a YouTube channel where he does a bunch of stuff, which is great. Um, Player interaction, not a ton of direct conflict, though certainly there's some in Scythe. Just the ability to try to figure out a puzzle is what he gives you. Also, the other game I should mention on here, Expeditions. Really like Expeditions. Um, But within Tapestry, for example, you have these four tracks that everyone is kind of competing on, moving up, and doing various things, and they don't change from game to game. And the puzzle is different every single time because of the Tapestry cards you have, which are vast, the number of them crazy, um, and because of the various civilizations that you have, all different. It is a unique puzzle to try and find out, try and figure out every time. Scythe 2, the thing is, the puzzle doesn't even change that much, but there's these different boards that interact with each other in different ways. So trying to find, based on what other players are doing, the way for you to get the most points by the end of the game, trying to figure out how to branch off of your own little peninsula that you start on. He's giving you these puzzles to figure out, and the puzzles are really cool. I I like that. I like that quite a bit. Even once you know the game really well, you still haven't figured out the puzzle because the puzzle has changed just enough every time. You're like, oh, I know this works really well, but based on what I have, maybe instead of going for the middle and trying to get a card, I'll instead do a heavy building strategy. Or I know that normally, like science and military aren't two tracks that go together well, but I think I have a way to make it work in this way. Um, yeah, really cool stuff. Big fan, Jamie Stegmaier. And they're heavy. Okay, the top two both have over 200 design credits to their name. The second one has 726 as of when I did this. It's probably more since I did this a couple weeks ago. It's Reiner Knizia. He is so incredibly prolific. I think probably the most prolific board game designer. Here's a couple of my favorites: Quest for El Dorado, Lost Cities. Also a big fan of Lord of the Rings Confrontation, Ingenious, and lots of others because he has so many board game designs. Um, yeah, he has the ability to do lots of different things. I will say some people say his masterpiece is Tigris and Euphrates. Wasn't a big fan of it when I played it like 15 years ago, but I should probably give it another try now that my taste has changed a bit. Um, he has the ability, he's a mathematician, he has the ability to distill things down into very simple problems like lost cities. And the despite it being incredibly simple, it's so interesting. Another game of his I really want to play again, I played it only once, is Raw. I really want to try Modern Art. He has so many games that are considered masterpieces, and for good reason. I do think Quest for El Dorado is so it's deck building again, and it's also a race. It's a race to get to El Dorado first. This is, in a lot of ways, it's not the simplest deck builder, but in a lot of ways, it is the most interesting, simple deck builder. It's also coming apart as I stand it up like this. I keep my games like this. I don't stand them on their sides, and I think I'm right to do that. Fight me. Um, yeah, so many games that I love. Also, some games I don't like, but that's because he has over 700 designs. Um, really interesting stuff. Very mathy, not very thematic, in a lot of times, but that's okay because they're just so good. Finally, number one has been my favorite designer ever since I played this game, Uwe Rosenberg. Here we have A Feast for Odin. This is a new takes about it says 30 minutes per player. That's not correct. 45 minutes per player, I would say. Um, it's a worker placement game, 60 spots. It's amazing. It's heavy. And here we have Bonanza, which I could teach probably just about anybody. It's pretty simple. It's a trading game. He he has this thing where he designed all of these simple games um, at the beginning of his career. Things like Bonanza, things like Mamma Mia, and then he designed Agricola, which I love Agricola, which is super heavy. So now he's been designing all these heavy games, but also he tossed in something like Patchwork, which Patchwork is a great two-player game with polyomino tiles. He loves polyominoes, which I think is interesting. But man, this game is such a triumph. It has fallen from number one to number two for me, behind Toon Imperium. But the combination of these two just being so different, um, and all of his other great games I played. Like I like Fields of Arle, for example. He has heavy games that are all kind of worker placement or worker placement adjacent, and all about like resource management and building up an area or doing something like that. But they are so intricate and so interesting. And then lighter games where you could use this as a game to introduce people to board gaming. Um, Amazing that he has like the space in his mind for both of those. Um, that's number one, Uwe Rosenberg. Now I got to put all these away. Whew, enough work just to get them out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Certainly a little bit different of a video, a little bit longer. But let me know in the comments who I missed or what games I did not mention from these designers I should check out. And yeah, hope you have a great time gaming.